Ciao tutti, ciao paisanos. Welcome back to another episode of the best Serie A pod out there, Calcio Culture. I am your host today, stealing the duties. This is Logs. I'm here with my co-hosts, Motts and Vos. They're so excited to see me. We went on an absolute hiatus because of the one and only Vos deciding that he needed to frolic off to the Grand Canyon and to the national parks out west. And so
What do you
here we
mean?
are.
We're
A week and a half out from our last episode. Happy to be here. Lads, how are you? I'll start with Motts.
I'll go to Vos on that after that controversial take.
We're saying that because I couldn't have on here, it's my fault we took the hiatus.
I wasn't aware.
Gudmundson and Gudmundson 2 here who were just sitting thumb up their ass, not recording.
I was not aware that Logan was going to come with that. Before we started, Logan said, let me take the duties. I just threw you under the bus.
So Logs, you've been relieved of duty. I'm now back in charge of hosts, and I want to apologize, everybody, that we took a week off there. Unfortunately, this is not quite our full-time job yet. Some things come up. We'll get there. We're working on it. CBS, pull us in. We're ready to go. But with that, we have a really busy episode today, guys. Obviously, we're going to give you a couple quick shouts, but we're going to break down a lot of different things today. We're going to talk about what we missed last week, a little table update as things stand right now, obviously get into our match reviews from this past weekend. And then we have a lot of European play. We have the Champions League, the Europa League, and Conference League this week. So there's a lot of games. Mont said it a couple weeks ago, season's in full swing, and it's just continuing to ramp up here. So with that, we're going to start bringing back a new segment, extremely quick shouts. This is going to be even quicker than the last extreme ones, and Logs, and handing it off to you. No PJ.
As much as I love extremely quick shouts, I'm such a big fan of the quick shouts. But in any case, we're starting off a little sad. Quick RIP to a couple of huge players in the sports world. For you non-soccer fans listening in, Dikembe Mutombo and Pete Rose, both passing away today. Dikembe at 58, Pete Rose at 83. Bless up, RIP. Sad to see him go. Absolute legends. On a happier note, though, a big birthday shout out for happy birthday, Olivier. I absolutely miss you, but it seems like we may have some replacements. But in any case, happy birthday to you, buddy. Wish you well. Wish you well. That brings us to another quick shout that I love. A kit dropped. Again, another kit drop. A beauty of a kit drop, may I add. Bayern Munich gets in touch with their homeland. They dropped an Octoberfest kit. It is ecstatic. I actually love the fact that a club like Bayern, which you typically look at as very serious, no games here, straight to the point, every year gets a little bit in touch with the festivities. They do a little team picture with the lederhosen. They got the kit drop this year. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's phenomenal. So love seeing that creativity out of Bayern. And one more quick shout out of me.
I don't love them, to be honest. If you're doing an Octoberfest kit, make them a little flashier.
I don't know. It's kind of clean though.
I'm not looking for a clean Octoberfest kit. That's a sloppy holiday.
Well, it was subtle. It was subtle, nice, clean, Bayern-esque jersey. One more quick shout from me, though. Gotta fly over to London, to the Blues, to Chelsea. Cole Palmer, the quadruple in one half. He had 3 goals in 20 minutes. The guy absolutely popped off. And the best part about it was he does a post-game interview, and you can just tell the guy has marbles for brains. He has not a clue to answer questions in a post-game interview. It's actually hilarious that he has a content on top of content on top of content without trying. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, look up a compilation of interviews with Cole Palmer. He's got corn in his head. There is nothing up there.
That's funny. I saw some TikToks today that it was him answering questions. He just couldn't answer them, but I didn't put it together. Yeah, there's not much upstairs on Cole Palmer. But moving on to my one quick shot that I wanted to say, or I have a couple actually, but the one that I thought was funny was their Fenerbahçe Galatasaray game. Fenerbahçe scored a goal and it was called offsides by VAR, and they don't show that like to the fans in the stadium, I guess, because they don't want like people to like get riled up or whatever. So Mourhino took one of like those tablets that all the coaching staff has on the coaches and put it up to the camera to show the entire stadium. I thought that was
That's a
very
good one.
funny. You got a yellow card.
I know he's pretty controversial, but I've always been a very big Mourhino guy. And I think people kind of got sick of how he was and his style of play. But when his style of play came through, people were comparing him. It was him and Pep. And like, obviously the game kind of passed him by and he didn't really adjust. But I still think he deserves his place, like in the big history of soccer.
What he's always done, he might not have always had the edge tactically on Pep or some of those other tacticians, but he's always been like a media guru, like saying shit that will get under people's skins and like saying something to rile his boys up. And this is just classic Mourhino showing the VAR to the fans because he didn't believe that the guy was offsides.
He's unapologetically Jose. That's the only way to say it.
Yeah. On to the other quick shouts. I know it's been a while since we were on here. YouTube absolutely fucked us. We were supposed to go live for the Napoli Juventus game. Went to go live that morning, and YouTube let us know that we needed 24 hours of a waiting period in order to go live. And we obviously tried going live.
We're figuring it out. We're still a new show.
We're learning.
Yeah. How are you going to know that before you try to do it?
There should be way more disclaimers about that. You need to wait 24 hours. I don't know how that's not more public.
Yep. And then to piggyback on that, obviously there was no Kobe this week. Last week didn't hit. Vos was the only one that hit again. I will say I did hit some bets today that some bets last match week that we're going to review, which I'll let you know later on. But that's on us again. We did mess up again. Like we said, we were on a little vacation there. Less communication won't happen again. But what we really wanted to talk about is not our fuck ups, but Paramount Plus and the Serie A fuck ups. Vos was watching a game, and what happened to the game that you were watching?
Yeah, so this is a new one. Because we are covering a lot of games, I can't watch them all live. So I'll go back and watch the replays of some of the games I want to watch. And I tried to watch the Torino-Lazio replay. I think it was Torino-Lazio. I'm kind of spacing out on which game I watched the replay of. Two major issues. There was no audio the whole game. I thought it would come on like it does usually. There was it wasn't even that there was no commentators. There was simply literally no sound the entire game. Not only that, I get to the 60th minute and all of a sudden it's like I'm watching like fucking Lost. And it's like, we're going to the next episode. Do you want to watch the credits? And it just ends the game. Like 60th minute. So I got to go back and then I got to push through it because it does it again. And I got to say, watch the credits to get to the rest of the fucking game. Like, first of all, there's
legal stream.
There's two issues with this. Paramount's got to get the technology aspect of this right, which they're not even close to doing. And that includes getting better goddamn cameras so that it looks like we're watching the same quality as a Premier League game. It's like they're filming things on like a Google Pixel half the time. And then the other thing that Motts, you brought up to me right before we hopped on.
Yeah, well, I just want to piggyback on the technology, piggyback on what we said last episode. You got to be able to minimize that screen and still use your phone as well. Like get the app up to date as well on the technology. But then to go on to this might be more of a Serie A front or Paramount. I don't really know who's in charge of this, but how on earth do you not have two people in the booth for every single game? I'm constantly watching games and it's just, whether it's a Champions League game, a Europa League game, a Serie A game, there is one person in the booth. There's a play-by-play. There's no color commentator. You need both. Soccer is the most popular sport in the world. There are a ton of people that would probably want to do this for a job and probably do it for a job and would do well. Three of us right here. Find those people and get them in the booth. You need to have two per game. You just do.
Well, this is the overarching thing that I think we've talked about a couple times is the league is only now starting to take itself seriously again, I think. And that is a piece of this.
I agree, but I was watching the Juve PSV game last Wednesday, and there's one girl talking the whole time. There's no, even on the Champions League game, it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Get two goddamn people in the fucking booth. It's just,
it does make it, and I feel bad because the guy that usually does the games, I actually don't know his name. I'll have to figure that out. but he always does like the single guy commentary. He's actually good, but he needs another guy.
You need someone to need a breakdown.
Like, think about how hard that is to like do that the whole game. And like, it gets a little bit like monotone and like a little bit boring. And I think he's like, I've been saying the same thing.
Yeah, absolute disaster class. If that guy's covering a 0-0 game, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, but those were the fuck ups that we wanted to cover. We did have some ourselves, but we've only been doing this for about 2 months now. Paramount's been doing this for 2-3 years now, and they still haven't fucking figured it out. So,
and they have a budget. We don't have a budget.
We do not have a budget. We do all this for free. So if you want, please donate, rate us 5 stars, like us,
I don't know where you're gonna donate. We're gonna donate. But with that, we're gonna take a quick break. When we get back, we're gonna really get into the meat. We're back from the break, guys, to get into the football. The bone-in chicken parm, the meat. Trescan Boston, one of the best chicken parms you can get around. Bone in. They got chicken parm egg rolls. Phenomenal restaurant. But as we said, we did this last week.
You gotta stop shouting out. Yeah, you gotta stop shouting out that small city.
I gotta get out. I gotta get out of the city. You're right. I did do a Miami one, big city. But we did miss a lot. We did miss a lot last week. So we want to take a moment here to just talk about literally what we did miss, because there were some significant moments. We saw Roma's first game under even Juric. It went very well. So we're just going to lead off with that because we spent a lot of time on this before. We have a lot of Roma listeners that really enjoy listening to the show. And we're as a trio, big fans of Roma as a whole. And we were very optimistic about them. We thought they might be that next club that takes a step, gets further into Europe, and continues to elevate Serie A in the world as a whole. Season obviously didn't start out that way, but it's back to winning ways now. On the first game under Juric, they won 3-0, putting in goals, which was really the issue that De Rossi couldn't solve. So that's a big first step in the right direction, right? So like put in 3 goals first game.
Correct. They looked good on the pitch. However, as Logan mentioned when we covered the De Rossi sacking, there were going to be things that were leaked and we found out about later on because of the sacking. Kind of came as a shock, and those things all happened last week, which we unfortunately missed. So I just wanted to cover those for the Paisanos here, because it was a crazy week in Rome. So first, the fans were not happy. There were protests.
They were pissed
before the game at Roma Udinese. A lot of the fans were seen outside of De Rossi's house or apartment, like cheering him on, loving him, saying how they were pissed about it. They were so mad that it ended up getting leaked that the CEO, Lena, and I might botch this name, Saluco, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, was like behind the firing. And they were so mad at her that she had to be placed under police protection before the game. And then before the game even started, also Roma put out a press release that she actually resigned because the fans were so goddamn mad. They were like, we have to let her go, because she not only sacked De Rossi, but like she did it in like a very poor way. She put out like a 3-sentence thing, like, we sacked De Rossi. And we're talking about a club legend here. And the fans took it a step further and protested the game for the first half an hour and didn't go into the Olimpico for the first 30 minutes. They sat outside because they were so mad. So, and then to top it all off, the owners of Roma, I think they're the Friedkin group, I believe, just announced that they're buying Everton. So in the midst of all of this turmoil in Roma, they're like, hey, let's buy a new club. So a lot going on off the field, but this appointing of Juric, 3 games in now, he has been able to kind of right the ship on the field, which is good for them on the field, but they still have a lot to figure out off the field.
Yeah, I'm happy that all this came out, because I was adamantly disagreeing with Vos that De Rossi should have been fired for the first part of the season's performance. Clearly, it was not that. There was also rumors that came out that he was getting into fights with some of the players in the locker room, so obviously some chemistry issues there. Notably, Brian Cristante trying to fight De Rossi. If your name is Brian, you have zero business trying to fight an Italian soccer legend, no matter where you are. So that can't be happening. In any case, he's gone. That's past us. That's behind us. Juric comes in, and they got the manager bump. New formation for them, 3-5-2. Absolutely slung cock at Udinese. They were unstoppable. It was a phenomenal performance and way to bounce back. And honestly, that was the only way that they could have come out and been, and the fans would have been like, okay, let's settle down. Let's move past this. And I think that they have. I think they're going to settle in. That obviously came with another result the following week, but good to see Roma back on track and good to see that the offense has finally started to wake up.
But just to quickly piggyback off the Cristante thing, just a little bit more in terms of why there was some divide in the locker room. I guess Cristante might have been fighting with De Rossi, but I also heard that other like veteran players of Roma marched into the front office and was like, why did you fire De Rossi? And those were Mancini and Pellegrini. So just a lot of divide. Juric came in, united them, changed the formation. They learned it quickly because they obviously put 3 away. Dovbyk got his first goal, who, if we're talking about kind of winners and losers of this Juric appointing, I think Dovbyk's a big winner because he's obviously get the balls to the wings, cross it. I think Soulé, big loser because Juric is also a 3-5-2 type of guy, and Soulé couldn't find his spot in Juventus with under Max Allegri with the 3-5-2. So kind of similar situation there. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of implements or works in Soulé and Dybala at the same time. But I expect a lot from Dovbyk with this appointed.
100%. And Vos, I'll let you go, but I do want to touch on the 3-5-2 again. In hindsight, really, really great change for them because, as Motts had pointed out very early in the season, their structure as a team was horrendous. And I think a 3-5-2 keeps you a little bit more rigid. I know that we had been preaching that we were so excited for the fluidity that the front line was going to give them, but I think that they really needed, I'm dying, to take a step back and just stay in position, stay in a system, obviously quickly implemented. And again, Dovbyk, huge winner. I think he's going to thrive with a striker that's playing off of him. And so obviously Soulé is going to have to find a little bit of a different spot. Dybala has played as a second striker for years and years and years. So I think he slots in perfectly there. You put Pellegrini at the 10 or any of their other, I mean, Soulé can kind of play the 10. We'll have to figure it out. But I do think the 3-5-2 switch gives them more structure, gives them more solidity. And obviously if they can play through the wings a little bit more, that's what's going to be the formula for success.
Yeah, and let's not get too far here because this past weekend they kind of switched it up and went more of like a 4-3-3. So I think we're more so seeing this is what's exciting about this, and we're going to get into what actually played out in this last game a little bit more. But for me, this is Juric. What we were worried about, can he manage a super club? Part of that is being able to take it to worse teams. Like they played Venezia this weekend. Let's go 4-3-3. The first game he hosted one of the hottest teams in the league, of really hot Udinese. Let's play the back 3. And he had success with both as we'll get into. So I'll stand by it. I liked the De Rossi sacking. I like the Juric appointment. I think everybody needs to stay in their fucking lane. Players, your job is to go play. It's not to pick the manager. So whoever you're there for, you should be playing. The CEO, I think it's kind of how everything went down. She had to resign. Yes. But I still think that the De Rossi sacking was the right decision, and we're going to see how the season plays out, but it may have been harsh there. But we've got a lot more to cover, so we are going to move on. One of the biggest things from last weekend and one of the biggest teams that we've been highlighting all season is AC Milan. They may have righted the ship, it seems. They stole the Milan derby, beat Inter Milan 2-1, which is a pretty big deal, Lugs, especially with where we were a couple of weeks ago and what has since transpired in that time. Fonseca maybe riding the ship. I'm not convinced yet. These are big results, specifically in this Inter game. I think this is an Inter team that has been very inconsistent to start the season in their own kind of way. But how do we feel now? I know it's still like the pulse check on Milan. How are we? Where are we on Fonseca? Obviously, Pulisic is the guy that everybody's pulling out as flying. But it's still weird for me. I'm not happy with the Milan team yet, regardless of the results.
No, I'm certainly not sold. I mean, obviously, the last episode that we had, I was out for Fonseca's head. I still kind of am. I'm really not not sold on Fonseca at the helm. But what a game for Milan to come in San Siro, take on intercity rivals. Obviously, they're at San Siro. They're playing it. But I mean, that's a game where the true colors of the players really shine. I know that they came out, and I think post that game, a lot of players were like, "Oh, we're behind Fonseca 100%. We've got his back." Blah blah blah. The last 2 games that Milan has played, it's been purely just brilliance from a solo perspective of the players. I don't think it's not a systematic change. I don't know if it's Fonseca. However, one thing that I do love that they switched up is they went to 2 strikers, which I'm absolutely in love with. I love that they got Tammy and they got Morata in at the same time. I think that's a beauty of a play. Leao came out today or yesterday and said that, he's a quiet leader. It starts from the front. He wants to play defense, so that press might come to fruition a little bit. And obviously Pulisic, the guy is flying, Captain America, showing out for the red, white, and blue. This is huge, not only for him, but, I think there was a lot of question marks coming from last season. Can he keep it up? Clearly he can. This is one of the hottest streaks of his entire career. I doubt that he keeps it up at the same pace. However, it is phenomenal to see them to perform like that. So I'm happy with the results, obviously. I'm still shaken from the Liverpool result and from the lack of structure from previous games. I'm okay to see where we go from here on out. I still have Fonseca on a short leash.
He should definitely still be on a short leash, but he made a tactical switch. He was like, this 4-2-3-1's not working. I'm going to go to a 4-4-2. That's a tactical switch that clearly worked. Morata and Tammy as a partnership. Morata was playing slightly behind Tammy, so it kind of looked like a 4-2-3-1, but they were running all over the pitch. I think that he did that because he knows, even though Leao came out and said, I want to press, blah, 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 he knows Leao's not going to give that much defensively. So he knows Morata and Tammy are team players that will kind of sacrifice for the team. So he was like, let me pair them 2 together, have them run around when we're not in possession, make up for Leao. And so I think Fonseca did a very good job in that game. And this is the first win that Milan had in a derby in 6 games. So that's another pretty big stat there, where it's like he's kind of figuring it out, getting some more time. No one's done it before in 6 games. I figured it out. So
he survived. At the end of the day, this was the result he needed to survive. And he is still here. And as a result of that, he beat Venezia, which everybody was like, you had to do that. Everybody was okay with what happened with Liverpool, given who Liverpool is. And then it came down to this game. If he had gotten this one wrong, he was out in my mind.
Rightfully so. I don't really want to keep talking about Fonseca, though. Yes, sure, went to 2 9s, and I love that. It does worry me with the lack of depth that we have at that position to be playing 2 9s at the same time. In any case, want to shout out one player in particular. As I had written him off years and years and years ago, I was happy to see him leave. He came back mid-season when we had a bunch of injuries at center back, and Matteo Gabbia is a Milanista through and through. That man bleeds for the red and black, and it was phenomenal to see him in such a huge game get the game winner. He loves this team. He came out and backed Fonseca through and through. You got to love that loyalty from a guy who had been on the outs, had ridden the pine for such a long time, had the fans out on him. I'm assuming that I'm the generic fan for AC Milan, so I think everyone was out on him, but his performances as of late, he might be our best center back at this point in time, which is a crazy statement to make. But I'm happy to see that's at least somebody stepping up in the back end of the lineup.
Definitely. And from an Inter perspective, we're going to break them down a little bit more, but it's kind of been more of the same, where it's not, we see really good Inter, and then we've seen okay Inter, and then we've seen bad Inter. And
yeah, I think
it wasn't bad Inter though.
But I'm not saying that. Yeah,
you guys, and Milan got him off of City in the Etihad, so that's 2 pretty mentally exhausting games. That's a really 90 minutes. And it was they let in that goal. They let in that goal in what, the 85th, 88th. Like it was,
89th, I think.
Yeah.
89th.
So it was a tough, and Milan had the extra day of rest. Like Milan had their game Tuesday. Inter had their game Wednesday. So not taking anything away from Fonseca Milan, but that's a little bit on why I think that happened to Inter.
Yeah, definitely. And the other big game that we had highlighted, this kind of went how I thought it was going to go. Lugs had a very different opinion on this game. We had Napoli going to Turin to play Juve, 2 of the hottest teams in the league. 0-0 snooze fest. Like it was 2 teams that conceding goals, not really wanting to concede goals was my takeaway.
Yeah, there was chances in the first half, though.
Yeah, the second half was a snooze fest. There was definitely, it was like not high XG in the first half, but there were opportunities. But this was definitely, in my opinion, a win for Napoli. You went into the
Yeah.
Allianz 0-0 draw, didn't really concede much. That was probably what Conte was going in for. Just go get a point, show everybody that we can go up against a team that is scoring 3 goals a game or drawing, or just a Juventus team, and not concede a goal and play with them, and we'll build on that.
Definitely. And just to take us through a couple other notable points that happened, maybe less big games, and I'm going to hide really quickly behind this one. Como beat Atalanta, and then some other teams that got
Wait, what happened? What happened? Is the result?
Yeah.
In
Who-
Atalanta.
Your fucking boys in Bergamo? Como.
Yep.
The little lads from Como.
The little lads from the. Oh, so other teams that got on the board with their first wins: Fiorentina, Bologna, and Venezia. I'm very happy that these guys finally got their wins. These have been teams that are trending in the right direction. Most notable of this, Gudmundson finally returned to the Fiorentina squad, and he netted his first goal. He actually scored 2, both were PKs. Pretty significant guy coming in there. This was probably their biggest signing, right? I would say. Kolpani obviously was
Remember
a big piece,
Keane?
but this was
Keane-
much more.
Kolpani.
Gudmundson higher caliber than Keane and
Agreed.
Kolpani at this point, I would say. What is going to happen with him remains to be seen. He did go through the actual trial in Iceland, but I think the decision is actually going to be made at the end of November. So we'll see what happens there, but very good debut from him, we'll call it. And this is a big piece that they really needed this because they couldn't quite get it there, but they were playing well.
I'm happy to see. I'm always going to be a Fiorentina supporter here, and yes, happy to see them getting off the mark. That's exactly what they needed. And just to touch on the PKs, that's how you get strikers off the mark, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Haaland a couple seasons ago was scoreless for the first couple of games, and he takes a PK and he was off to the races. This is a foregone conclusion that you just let the guy who's not hot take the PK. Hopefully he puts it in, but that usually gets them off. They get the one off the board and then they get going. Same thing happened with Vlahovic this season as well.
I'm out on Vlahovic. But that's what happened last week. That's what we missed. Before we get into what happened this weekend, we did just want to do like a little check-in, I will call it, an update on how the table stands right now. We're not going to go through like 20-1. We're just going to take you kind of through top 5, bottom 3, and anything else that's kind of funky in there. But from 1 to 6 is European spots. Yeah, 1 to 6 right now is our quote unquote European spots. Top to bottom is Napoli, Juve, Milan, Inter Milan, Torino, and Empoli. Interesting
Stat of the
group.
day.
I'm going to let Motts start too. Yeah.
Stat of the day. 6 weeks in to the Serie A, 6 different leaders at the end of each week on the top of the table.
Best league in Europe.
I think my
Best league in
favorite,
Europe.
honestly, my favorite stat of this is Juve haven't conceded a goal in the Serie A yet.
Yeah, Juve have gone
That's
5 hours and
ridiculous.
30 minutes without a goal. They've barely conceded a shot as well. It's pretty. People are saying that Juve Twitter is saying that Thiago Motta is Max Allegri 2.0. That makes me want to punch my phone I just cracked the screen.
He's not.
Yes, he's defensively, but he is, oh my goodness, so much more attacking than Max Allegri. Juventus have the only time they got outpossessed was against PSV. Every other game they dominate possession. With Max Allegri, there was not one game that Juventus would dominate possession. There's not one game that Juventus would score 3 goals, let alone 2 goals. It'd be one, and then we're put 11 guys behind the ball. So every time I see that on Twitter, it makes me want to literally punch my phone and just throw my phone and break it, because he's just totally not that, and I want to kill that. If that comes about, I want to kill that as right now. That has to be done. But Napoli leading right now, and Conte said some things. Actually, I'll wait for the reviews to say what Conte said. But I just like to say I called it. What was going to happen here? 1 game a week, Napoli. That's what they do. That's what Conte does.
At this point in time, though, I would say Juve is better than Napoli. The way they are going to play and the way I see them trending is kind of they're going to create more and more and more and more. And I think what they're trending towards is a very scary in possession kind of team. They're not quite there yet because I think everybody's still figuring it out. And even Motta, I think he's going to have to make a decision at striker at some point, and we've talked about it a lot. But they haven't gotten any production really from like a true 9 yet and like their quote unquote goal scorer. in Coop Miners.
It's funny though,
steaming.
you say that, but Vlahovic he's tied at the top with 4 goals. Granted, 2 of them are PKs, but I agree. Vlahovic, he got subbed out against Napoli in the first half at the 45th minute. If you're getting subbed off in the 45th, that's clear. Like your coach is sending a message you're not playing well. And that was, I think, 3 or 4 games in a row he didn't score. He ended that streak this week, but yeah, there's issues there. I think Milik will be really good when he's healthy. I just don't know when he's going to come back, because Milik's at least better, like with his back to goal, like
sure.
those little flicks, those playing people in. Vlahovic is at like, let's say like level 1 to level 10 on the back to goal. Vlahovic is on level 0. Like he cannot do it. Like he just can't do it.
Yeah, interesting. But on Napoli, Lokes, how do you feel about Napoli at this point? Number 1 in the league. I'll let you kind of run with this one. We'll start there.
Number 1 in the league, but something feels off. Something feels like it's missing. I can't put my finger on it per se, but there's a bit of inconsistency. I would say just
how they have ever since that Verona game, they have 16 goals and 1 conceded. That means they're scoring. That means they're not conceding. What's missing?
Something is missing. It feels off. I can't really put my finger on it, but Kvara's getting it done. Lukaku's come in and is seamless integration. I don't know. Something's not there for me, but that'll be remain to seen. Maybe it's, you know what it is? It's because they're only playing 1 game a week that I feel like they're just not playing. Like they're not playing a lot, and I'm not seeing them a lot. So that might be the actual reason that I feel like there's something not there.
It's
probably just because they're not on the schedule. Yeah, no, it certainly does help them, but I think that's probably what it is. They're not on the scoreboard every week as much as the other teams.
Here's my question for you boys on this table. Milan obviously started obviously slow, shot up the table quick with 3 wins in a row in the Serie A. Do we think they can compete for the Scudetto? Because I think they're going to lack consistency. I think if Milan go down early, that could lead to a lot of goals that they concede. I think it's like kind of exactly like what happened this past Friday when they scored a goal and then boom, 2 more. I think that could happen to them, but just the opposite way. What do you guys think?
Here's the problem with AC, aside from everything else that we've talked about. Pioli out, Fonseca in, but one thing hasn't changed is that we play to our competition every single time. So if we play Inter Milan, we're going to play our best soccer ever. If we're playing Venezia, we're probably going to play our worst soccer. Obviously, we put a 4 on them. That was a huge game, but point still stands that we typically don't play to the highest level against the lower tier teams. And that's where I think it's going to hurt, because we're going to get some draws. We're going to get some surprise losses. That's going to pull us down the table very quickly. And it's happened for season after season after season.
For me, it's more so, this is what I will continue to say. When they won the Scudetto, that was ahead of schedule. They weren't supposed to win yet, and they weren't the best team in the league, period. And that, I think that changed how the club was run a little bit. And instead of saying, like, continuing the trajectory we were on, they kind of said, oh, we won the Scudetto, like this team's good enough. Let's keep them this good, rather than let's continue to get better. And because of that, now we have a squad that's filled with a lot of guys that aren't as good as the Inter Milan roster or the Juventus roster or the Napoli roster. And that's going to hurt them now in the long run, right? Switching to this 4-4-2, what got Milan here was trying to outscore teams. And now you're going to sacrifice that to go into the 4-4-2 shell. Whether or not they stay that way, I don't know. But Tammy Abraham and Alvaro Morata with Leao and Pulisic aren't going to be guys that are just getting a ton of service to score. And it's still going to be on Pulisic and Leao to score a lot in a more defensive shape, which worries me throughout the season.
Well, how different is that than Napoli's approach?
Because Napoli's
their goals come from 2 people, and they have a defensive shell.
Those guys are a lot better, I think.
And
their defensive shell is also much better. And I think the Napoli midfield is better and more dynamic.
Then you would take, hold on. Reinders and Fofana versus Labaka and Zambo. I don't think that there's much of a drop off at all on the AC side.
I agree with Logan. I don't think that's close, but where Vos is right is like, you guys Milan leaks in goals. Napoli's not leaking in goals. And the Serie A has always been a league where if you want to win the league, you can't concede goals. The one Milan won the league, they let up 12 goals from like Christmas on. Like, and your problem this year or right now is you're still leaking goals. And whether you guys are winning 2-1 or 3-1, I think the problem still lies in the fact that you have either Calabria or Royale, who's going to be caught out of position at some point in the game. Like even in the Milan derby, Royale got sucked in to Lautaro, who then just laid it off to DeMarco, who scored a goal. If Royale just stayed on his man, that you wouldn't have scored the goal. I think positionally, that's going to continue to screw you. I think you guys are going to score a ton of goals, but I think Milan's going to continually let up goal after goal.
The other piece, and I think the Napoli comparison is probably a pretty good one, is the way Napoli are going to set up and they're going to play. And what they have shown is that they're not going to lose the big games, but they're going to win the not big games. And I'm not sure Milan is in a place to do that yet. And what Fonseca's mindset is I'm not sure. They're not going to be able to control games like Napoli has and how Juve has and how Inter has, where we're playing somebody worse than us. Let's just hold the ball and let's beat them and not try to do anything crazy. And I don't think Milan are there yet. And we've seen that with teams like Torino and Empoli here, who just have a plan. We're not going to lose, but we're going to win against teams that are worse than us. And that's what Napoli's doing right now.
It's interesting. My bad, Logs, you go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to kind of move that on to Torino and Empoli, though, because Empoli's been, I would say, probably the surprise of the season right now. They've only allowed 2 goals in, and they've played tough games, and they're sitting at 6. Torino's been very surprising as well, but Torino...
One important thing, to just interrupt you really quick. Between 10th place and 2nd place, there's 4 points. 5 points to first. So
it's a tight table.
It's very, very tight.
Yeah, it can be swung by just one match week. But what I was going to say is what we're kind of seeing this year, which we haven't really seen before in the Serie A, is some of those mid-level teams kind of going on the front foot now. Normally in the Serie A, it's, hey, we're gonna sit back, we're going to defend. I would say Como, Torino, Udinese are all saying, fuck that, let's go attack. Let's go try to win games. Empoli, on the other hand, is like, let's be compact, and it's paying dividends for them as well. So it's interesting to see these mid-level teams and their approach that they're taking this year. And it's going to lead to just a great season this year and a lot of goals in the Serie A, because these mid-level teams are now saying, we don't need to just park the bus and wait for the bigger team to score on us. Let's go score on them.
Yeah, and part of this comes from the quality from just like player to player on every team. Is just like the gap is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And there are so many good players. Like you go to every team and you can name a guy that's like, this guy's really, really good. And it's like that everywhere. So out of nowhere, like now we have these guys like Dennis Mann, who we've been highlighting nonstop from Parma, Suzuki on Parma. You go to Zito Lubumbo on Cagliari, who I love, and they're in last place. Piccoli has been a good striker on Cagliari. Like it's through the entire table. Yeah. Oh, no, Cagliari still is. Oh, no, it didn't update. No, yeah, this is not so today.
Mons is in last place, which kind of leads me to my next question is, which always, and this is obviously a lower level team, so they're not going to get as high press, but is Nesta on the hot seat in Monza with winless through 6 games? Will he be on the hot seat? The international break's coming up soon. If you're going to fire or sack someone, I feel like you got to do it beforehand. Why would you do it after? Is he? What do we think there?
This is a situation where their roster is actually not terrible, and they're underperforming their roster, which is very worrying, and it doesn't look like it's going to get better. This is like a perfect time to hire Allegri. Like, you're not going to get Allegri to go to Monza. Yeah. That's what I would say. Okay, like, we started terribly. This is a tough one. I don't know, because what you're going to get, like, yes, we're only a couple games. We're 6 games into the season. You have time to overtake people. You're 3 points off of 11th place. I think it's probably don't hit the panic button yet, but getting close.
I think we're underselling how early it is in the season.
It's very early.
We play 36 games.
I think the problem is that when we're hopping on here so much, like I forget that like the season just started.
I agree. And I thought that in this week that we missed, and especially because I was screaming sack Fonseca, but it's like, it's 6 games. Like, zoom out. Like
Yeah.
when it's kind of what we said about De Rossi, you can't let somebody go that quickly. Like zoom out, like you're not going to lose the Scudetto in these 6 games. People go on ruts all the time in middle of the season.
Well, you said it's me, Motts. What happened to Juve in the last season?
Juve, the last, I think, 15 games, I think they accumulated 7 points and they finished in 4th place.
So again, it's a horrendously long season, especially for these players, and they're playing a ton of soccer. So there's so much time to right the ship, even week to week. When you're playing European ball, you have Copa, then you go into the week game. There's so much time to make adjustments, to fix, to try things. We're still you can still very well be in a very experimental phase. So
That's true. That's true. That's a good point.
So I think that a lot of these teams can turn it around, and given how tight the table is, it only takes a week or two.
A lot of people do say that Serie A doesn't technically start until the 11th match week. It's like takes 10 games to get into it.
All right, so we got 5 until the season starts. I guess we're still
Jesus, that's crazy.
But I think that, but in the 10, you can see like the theme of the season, how it's gonna shape up.
Right.
So like this theme would be, you have kind of the 4 squads, 4 teams: Napoli, Juve, Milan, and Inter. I still think Atalanta and Roma can turn it around and compete, but we'll have to wait and see.
The thing is that what's interesting to me is that we'll get away from the European spots and go to the back end of the table quickly. But the way you just said that, we have Napoli, Juve, Milan, Inter here. I don't even consider Milan with those other 3 personally. Right?
I agree. I agree.
Inter was kind of the fake result. Like Inter is gonna figure this out. I'm not worried about them. Juve, clear trajectory. Napoli, clear trajectory. Milan are not on that level yet. And again, we're going to continue to watch it. I would say Milan and Roma are closer. And that's like more of the comparison we're going to do. And I would say Lazio even looks just as good as Milan right now, maybe better.
Well, we did tie, so they do look almost exactly the same. But with that being said, I think let's jump into the results from last week, and I think let's touch it.
Bottom 3. Just a quick touch on bottom 3.
I don't even like the bottom 3.
You got Lecce, Venezia, and Monza.
Here's my thing. Besides maybe Monza tied Inter, Venezia plays everybody really well. Lecce kind of suck, but then will also be a team. It's like, it's going to be a crazy race, I think, for who's going to get relegated. Every single week, it's down to the wire every game.
Monza are too good to be down here, like player to player, though. That's why I think they're going to be okay. I think the issue with Lecce is they got like Como syndrome, which is like, we can play against other teams, but they're bad. It's the problem. So they're going to get mashed sometimes. And sometimes they're going to get results, but I don't like that in the long run. And Venezia, we've kind of talked about it. They've been pretty hard to break down at times. So I could see them maybe inching out of here, but then it's like, who comes in if they come out kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Don't want to spend too much time on the bottom 3.
Well, I was going to say, I want to jump to the result of last weekend, which starts with Atalanta, which we'll give to Vos because he's been preaching Atalanta, and they've come off of a couple of rough games.
Yeah, I think this is kind of fake news. I'm going to continue to preach Atalanta. At this point, they're 12th in the table, but again, like we said, it's early days and there's barely anything between these teams. I think most notably is the chances that they've missed. They have missed 1,000,000 chances. They've hit 1,000,000 posts. Like, they didn't have Lookman at the beginning of the season. He's still getting fully integrated correctly. We just saw Kasunu make his debut as a full start. He looked like the best center back they had by far. Brescianini just came back into the team. So it's trending in the right direction for me. And it's still like classic Atalanta, but I think they're improving on what they do poorly. And I think we still need to see a new evolution of Gasperini for them to get where they really want to go. And in this game, they tied Bologna 1-1. And the goal for Bologna kind of came out of nowhere. Atalanta, once again, should have scored more than one goal. If you look at the table in terms of XG and like XG differential, which is like the opponent's XG, Atalanta, number 1 in XG, number 4 in XG differential. So think from a pure, how games are going, it's going well. They're just not finishing all their chances. And Retegui didn't start this game. He needed to take a break with all the games that he's been playing. And like everything is going exactly how you want it to be going right now. We're creating chances. Yes, we're conceding chances, but we're still creating more than, and our differential is still better than almost every team in the league. So that's what you need to do. And now you have maybe your best center back who just started his first game, and things are trending in the right direction.
No, I fully believe in the idea of reversion to the mean, and so these goals will start to go in. It's a matter of time. I mean, you look at, I mean, Retegui should have had 2 goals on one play against Arsenal. So it's literally a game of inches for this guy, and if he can just figure it out, just tune it up a bit, they're gonna be off to the races. They're totally
and like in this game they had 2 xG. Like if you have 2 xG, you're usually scoring 2 goals realistically. Like good teams outscore their xG, and we're also forgetting that they just tied Arsenal and probably should have won that game. Like that was a massive game for this team. Like that was the first Champions League game at the new stadium. Arsenal is a Premier League champion favorite. And like they didn't back down. They went against them. They didn't concede a goal. And that's one of the most potent offenses in the entire world. So like the defensive structure still works. This Gasperini system still works. It's just how are you going to change it slightly to get even more out of this team and squeeze more and more out of them?
I think the system works. And we did praise their Mercado this summer, which I did think was a great Mercado. I think they just left themselves weak at center back. And yes, they're getting all these XG, which is great, but they're not converting those chances. And having such, not even weak, but being so thin there in terms of just bodies and men is going to hurt them when we get into the middle of the season and they have 3 games a week every single week. And if you're not going to convert your chances, they're going to let up goals. I even think that they kind of this is such a tough game to talk about because I don't want to say that they got lucky that they tied because Somerset had a sick goal, but they kind of did because that goal was like a world-class goal. If that doesn't happen, they lost. But I don't want to say that because Bologna, on the other hand, their XG was 0.1. So Bologna even having a goal in this game was lucky as well.
Yeah,
So,
even then, that I don't know how that wasn't a penalty on the red card. It's because the fellow started outside the box technically, but CDK basically like shook off a tackle and then carried the ball into the box and then got like tackled a second time kind of. So they took it out of the box, but it was a red
they
card.
took the advantage.
But at the end of the day, they had 23 fucking shots and they were just peppering them and they deserved a goal.
Yeah, I definitely think that Atalanta to start the season have been on the opposite side of the luck. It just hasn't gone their way. Torino, they had a lot of XG. They had a PK to tie, didn't convert. But you need luck to win a Scudetto, and it's not on Atalanta's side right now.
2 missed penalties for Retegui, also notable.
He might have to stop taking penalties.
Other notable thing is Samardzic is like barely playing yet.
Yeah,
Like,
they're not
a
playing
full
him that
starter.
much. I don't really get why.
I think because partially it's still Rune as a Gasperini guy. And I think he's still figuring out how he wants to use Samardzic and Ederson effectively. But I think we do need to talk about Bologna because for them, I would consider this a good result with how the beginning of the season has gone. And for Italiano, this has always been kind of his thing. Weighing as like a forward or a striker for him is just very difficult. You get such little amounts of service. And
Unless
that
your
is
name's
such a
Vlahovic.
yeah, unless your name's Vlahovic. Yeah, true. And it's such like a hard job. And I was kind of harsh on Castro. I thought he actually played pretty well in this game with what he had to do. He's basically at any point you're attacking with like 2 people and that's it. Like it is difficult to do that. And I still don't love what this Bologna team is doing overall, although it's trending better, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Bologna, I kind of have in the same exact boat as Atalanta. Like the luck just hasn't been on their side right now. They haven't lost any games. They've lost 1 game and then they've only won 1. They just a bunch of draws. Like if you get a couple bounces that go your way, those draws are probably wins.
Need a lot more bounces, in my opinion. 0.1 XG is not getting it done for the season.
Yeah, but like, I mean, they don't have 0.1 XG for the season. They had it for 1 game. They don't have a high XG, but they have possession of the ball. Couple bounces go their way. They're gonna get more wins. I thought that they would have a little bit better of a start, but I think that only 1 loss in 6 games, it goes to show you that like they're going to be tough to beat. And if you're not conceding goals, you're going to be tough to beat. You're always going to have a chance to win the game.
That's true.
I also think that this Bologna team cannot keep up with three tournaments, with three matches.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe.
This team is not built for that. They absolutely needed a season, this one in particular, to have one game a week, and they don't have that luxury.
Yeah, that's probably true. They did not reinforce the squad enough to do that. I mean, depending on what happens like this week in the Champions League, it's like maybe bag it. Like, you're not good enough to compete with a lot of these teams. Like, at what point are you just like burning your best players by trying to compete against these teams? I don't think they're there yet, right? It's the second game of the Champions League.
Yeah.
You still got to go like pedal down. But I think that is going to be a conversation at some point.
I don't think Italiano is going to do that. He came because he wanted to play the Champions League. But you're right, Lugs. They don't have the roster for it, and it's just going to make their season tougher.
Ganondorf is good, though. Ganondorf is good, though. But moving on, two other pretty good teams, very good teams. Inter visited Udinese. Inter did win this game 3-2. Udinese still scoring goals against the best teams. Maybe this Roma game last week was a little bit of a fluke, 3-0. Putting up 2 goals against Inter and losing 3-2, I think is not a bad result for Udinese. I think you look at this and say what we're doing is still effective. Like, be confident in ourselves. We can continue to bring it to teams that win games.
Well, Udinese kind of goes to like what I said earlier. Udinese used to be a team that's just kind of, let's shovel it in, let's compact, let's try to get out of this 1-1. Scoring 2 goals against Inter is a good, not a great result, because you lost, but you're taking it to Inter. I also think that this is just going to show what I kind of said leading up about Inter. They're just easier to break down this year. 2 goals, you let 2 goals against Udinese, who, yes, they're firing, but last year Inter's probably shutting this team out 3-0, 3-1. They're also, Inter's letting up way too many goals in the 80th minute. I think this is their 3rd one that they've let up this season in the 80th minute. They're losing concentration. I think Inter is showing us each week that they are not 19 points better than the other teams, and it's going to be a very, very close race.
Here's a question for you, Luke. Do you think this is a little Man City, like, oh, we're counting them out, right? Like, they're not as good as they were, and then they just like continue to get better, and then they finish the season way better than everybody? Or is this, they're actually not as good as they have been, other teams are getting better? For me, I'm on the Man City side of things. I think they're going to continue to get better, and their group and the way they play is significantly better than everybody still. We haven't seen it yet, and this could not happen, and they could continue to be like this rocky road kind of thing. I don't think it's that.
The quality on Inter is far, far, far better than every other team. I'll say that on a paper standpoint.
Outside of Juve, I think Juve's roster is fucking ridiculous at this point.
Juve's
roster
is crazy.
Yeah,
Juve's roster is crazy, but it's brand new.
Yeah,
this is a carbon copy of last season for them, for Inter. So, especially coming off of the game at Man City, it's really hard to say that this team doesn't have it in them to produce the same quality that they had last season. They come off a loss in the derby against AC. They have a little bit of a hangover, and they barely edge out Udinese here. They need Lautaro to score twice. But to that point, even, Lautaro's still kind of coming to form. I mean, he didn't play for the first couple of games. Obviously, he scored a bunch of goals in the last 2-3 matches that they've had, but this is not their final form. I would be very surprised to see that this is the highest quality that they play all season.
One other thing, too, is Frattesi fucking firing off the international, right? Too.
Yeah, Frattesi scores a lot.
Firing, making a hard decision for Inzaghi there.
It's also, I mean, it's not that hard because you're playing Barella, and Frattesi and Barella aren't that good at playing together.
Yeah, but you never know, dude, because he just, like, you're not going to, Mkhitaryan and Zelensky, like, it's a legitimate argument. You make it tough on Inzaghi. Like, Frattesi's fucking flying.
Yeah, but you can't play Frattesi and Barella together. You just can't do it, because then Barella has to stay back more, and you kind of clamp Barella, in my opinion. I think that, I don't know why he hasn't played Zelensky more. Every fucking game, it's Mkhitaryan. I don't understand why Zelensky's not out there yet. Mkhitaryan, you can see, doesn't have what he had last year in his legs anymore. You signed Zelensky for a reason. Put that man in. Lautaro, on the Lautaro topic, good for him to get off the schneid and finally get a goal. His first one was a fucking terrible goal. It was a shithouse goal. But like Logan said, sometimes strikers just need to see one go in. His second goal was a fucking rocket, which is a really nice goal. But I'm telling you, man, 3 games. Inter is the oldest team in the league this year. 3 games a week. Acerbi after the City game, he looked great for the City game. Against Milan, he looked terrible. Pulisic's goal that he scored, Acerbi just watched him go by him. To
He didn't
let
want to
him
foul, but yeah, it was
was
horrible
awful. It was
defending
terrible.
on the whole Inter front from that perspective.
Yeah, Pulisic got by 6 guys. But why Inter is not the Manchester City kind of topic there is because Inter don't do this. Like Manchester City win. That's what Manchester City, they've been winning since 4 years ago. They've won every year for 3 years in a row. Inter should have won when Milan won the Scudetto. They didn't because they don't win. They've won 4 years ago, and then they won this past one, but it's not in their DNA. That's not, I don't think that it's a Man City effect here because Inter, it's not in their DNA to constantly win.
2 points on Inter that I'll end it on, at least from my perspective. One thing that you can't discount, is they are so deep.
But
Their
he doesn't
roster
use
is
them.
insanely
Center
deep.
back.
He
Not at
doesn't
center
use
back
them.
there.
He doesn't sub them.
Hold on. If Besic plays the way that he played against Man City, then they have an added depth portion there. So I'll say that De Vrij, I think, is a little bit past his prime, even though he had awesome Euros. Acerbi, I don't know how he was still walking after playing against Haaland. But in any case, aside from their back 3, you look at the rest of the squad, and you can just go down the bench and pop anybody in there.
I disagree.
And they're the same quality as the starting lineup.
If Hakan misses games, they're screwed. They do not have that Regista to come in and play that spot over if Hakan's not in.
Sure, they'll have to shift what they're doing, especially in the midfield.
Hakan is so important to them.
Maybe that's why
but
Zelensky hasn't been playing.
But
It's because
he's not that guy. He is not that guy.
Yeah, but Hakan wasn't that guy until Inzaghi put him there.
Yeah, but Hakan is.
I said Zelensky could play that spot, and it's yet to be seen. But he's shown flashes that he can't. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that this is not a reasonable substitute. But in any case, I mean, they bring on guys, and it just doesn't change how they play at all from a quality perspective. One thing that I want to say is we have a 4-game stretch in Serie A that's going to show the true colors of this Inter squad, because they go back to back to back, aside from playing God knows who, Cervena Sveda from God knows where, and Young Boys in the Champions League. They go Torino, newly reborn Roma, Juventus, and Empoli.
How many of those games are home?
That is not an easy stretch. 2 of those games are home and 2 of those games are away. I still think that's an incredibly tough stretch. And I think this is a great time to really see how they're going to shift their lineup week to week to see how they're going to balance all the competitions.
I think it's going to be tough for them. And I think it was the year that Milan won the Scudetto, it should have been Inter's, and it was Inzaghi's first year. He couldn't figure out when to sub guys in and when to sub guys out. He would always go push guys forward, and then they would concede late, and that's why they would drop points. In my opinion, in the first 6 games, I know I said zoom out, don't overreact. I'm seeing that with Inzaghi this game. He rotated with Monza. They didn't win. They got the tie, so he didn't rotate well enough. He isn't using the players that they signed. Like, he's not playing Taremi that much. He's not playing Zelensky that much. Jan Sommer, to me, personally, hasn't looked all that good this season. They got a backup goalie. Why not give him a try? I just think that Inzaghi's not making the right calls in situations, and I think you're going to see that more and more throughout the season.
Goalie's definitely a tough spot to rotate because you want to try to keep consistency there. But I do agree that they're not playing the guys that you'd want them to play, especially given the market that they had. No matter how quiet that market was, use Zelensky, use Taremi, rotate the guys in a way that you are going to keep the quality. I think they can. We just have yet to see it. I mean, Dumfries hasn't played in a couple games.
That's another thing I was going to say. But you play him.
I agree. Play him. But they also, I mean, we'll see. Again, 4 games in the Serie A coming up in the next couple weeks. I think that'll show a lot about what this Inter team's about.
Moving on, though. Juric's second game in charge of Roma. They hosted Venezia. Things didn't start great. They went down 1-0. And for a lot of this game, I thought they looked very susceptible to counterattacks. And granted, like Venezia is not the best team, so I think that may have been partially by design. They ended up clawing back, won this game 2-1. Pizzilli, I think he scored his first goal for the club. He scored on a corner kick to seal it really late on in the game. Brian Cristante, I think he got a goal. It was kind of a funky deflection. It was kind of a thing
Super
of luck.
lucky goal.
This game probably should have been 1-1. How do you feel about, we talked about Juric and what has happened here, but how do you feel about this? Because we saw this, we talked about it. We had the 4-3-3. First game, we had the 3-5-2. This could be, we're playing teams worse than us. Let's go more offensive, 4-3-3. Because for me, I saw at times it was literally Mancini and Andika were the only two people back there, and everybody else was just piling forward. And they got played through very easily when they did lose the ball. It was more so Venezia only tacked with like two guys at any given time. So they weren't really able to capitalize on anything.
I thought they started this in like in the normal 3-back, the 3-5-2, 3-4-2-1, and then at halftime he switched it to the 4-3-3. But I just think that this is kind of what you're going to get. Like, yes, they looked great against Udinese in the first game. It's a new manager. Roma still they didn't completely know what they were doing under De Rossi. Now that they got a new coach, it's not going to look put together, finished product in his third game, right? They still got to learn. They were just trying to learn De Rossi's language. Now they got to learn a new language, essentially. So forget everything that De Rossi was telling you, learn something new. So you're going to have these growing pains. Where I think it was good is you saw them grind it out and sweat it out. Maybe with De Rossi, this ends in a 1-1 draw. They were able to do what they weren't doing in the beginning of the season, and that's finishing out the game and getting the result that you need, which is 3 points, especially at home. So I think they definitely looked open. I don't think you should ever have a 1.7 XG against Venezia. In terms of Venezia should have had a 1.7. I think Roma had like a 1.6. So they were definitely too open, but you're just known for compact, getting that organized. He's brought up a lot of great defenders from Torino in his time there. So I'm not too worried there. But I like how they were able to grind out, get the result. It's not going to be a finished product until middle of the season, I think. So good from Roma, expect better, and good from Juric kind of coming out one way and trying out a new thing because it wasn't working.
And I do like the aggressive subs. I mean, he brought on Pizzilli and Baldanzi in like the 60th minute, took off Mancini, moved kind of Celik into that role. One of my other bigger takeaways from this game is Dovbyk still isn't really doing it for me. I just don't know.
Great game against Udinese. He was involved in all 3 goals. He scored in the Europa League. He's definitely doing better than, because the cross is now when he was doing with De Rossi. But yeah, he didn't do amazing this game. But I think that Dovbyk is a lot like Vlahovic. He's not very good back to goal. He's good in the air. He needs his service. Like, I think we're going to see very similar players in terms of those, although maybe Dovbyk's slightly a better finisher because Vlahovic can miss some easy ones.
Yeah. The other guy that's a big one for me is Matheus Soulé. Like, new system. I'm still not seeing it. You're playing the same exact role as El Shaarawy, more or less, right? El Shaarawy is right-footed winger playing off the left. Soulé, you're a left-footed winger playing off the right. And El Shaarawy looks way better than him, in my mind. And for what he needs to be for this team to push on, granted Dybala didn't play in this game, but what they're expecting from Soulé is to become Dybala. And I don't know what he wants to accomplish yet. Like, when he gets the ball, like, he looks ineffective. He doesn't look driven to get it forward. He kind of just dribbles it into everybody. Then it's like, oh, fuck, and pass it back.
When Soulé gets the ball, he wants to take his man on and beat him.
He's also 21. I mean, not everyone's gonna be Lamine Yamal. This guy he still has a lot of ways to go in terms of his development. So it would be a disaster for Roma if Juric doesn't put the time and the effort into bringing him up to speed. Because yes, he's a young guy. He's going to be inconsistent. I'm not mad that he's being inconsistent right now. It's a new team. It's his second manager already this season, so he's going to be a little discombobulated. I think that he can right himself in a couple of games.
What I will say is that the more I watch him, the more I think you can play him with Dybala. They do want to do different things. I understand they kind of occupy similar spaces, but Dybala's starting position is much more central than Soulé wants. Like, Soulé wants to be on the touchline when he gets it, and Dybala wants to be a little bit more inside to kind of like get on that shooting, like, hook shot on the left foot. And I think that could actually be a very good partnership. It's just about getting them in the right place. And if they can figure that out, that's so effective.
Time will tell. That was the conundrum when they bought Soulé. And that kind of goes back to what I said last episode is Roma just bought like a whole bunch of players and just kind of threw them all in. And was like, let's figure it out now. And so that's what Juric is going to have to do. He's got a variety of players to choose from, right? We haven't seen Hummels yet, I don't believe. So he's got his work cut out for him, but I think Roma have the players to turn their season around, obviously, because as Vos mentioned, second to 11th is like 1 point. So one win, they can be right at the top, but they definitely have things to continue to work on, but at least they are starting to right the ship on the field, getting results, because that's really all that matters is getting the 3 points.
And that's the issue with Venezia, not getting the results. Like you go up 1-0. I say you have to get a result out of that, but they're not even good enough. It's tough. It's going to be very tough for Venezia. I know that they've been hard to break down at home at times, but I'm not seeing enough out of them where they can get out of this and stay in the league.
You have an XG of 1.7 away from home in Roma, and you are tied going into the 80th minute. You need to get 1 point from this game. You're up 1-0 until the 74th minute. If you're Venezia and you want to stay up, this is a game you have to get a point out of.
Yeah, and they did have more chances than they normally have because Roma was just like, fuck it.
You're right. They had I can't remember who it was, but he had a 1-on-1 with the keeper, missed it. And then they had a goal disallowed from VAR because he was offsides. So they were they were in this game.
Definitely. And then one other game that happened, probably less headlines kind of game, but we did want to pull it out. Napoli at home beat Monza 2-0. We pulled this one out more so because we saw something from Conte. He's done it actually a couple times this year. This wasn't the first time.
Second time. Yeah.
But it's happened enough now. It's happened twice, 2 games. A little bit different formation, a little bit more free playing, a little bit more offensive, which is an interesting thing for Antonio Conte. We think about as a very strict, we're going to play defensively. This is how we're going to do it. And I think part of this has to do with some of the players that came in.
Correct. And you go, Logs.
What I was going to say is the fact that Scott McTominay has come in and been such a difference for that midfield. I mean, I think he was the one shining spot in the Juve-Napoli game that was just a rock fight. He brought a different level to that midfield, very much more attacking. I thought he was going to still be a little bit deeper, but he brought out the positives that we saw at Man U and the aggressiveness and the willingness to get forward and to bring the ball. I mean, he brought the ball from half field to the box, I think 3 or 4 times against Juve. I didn't watch this Monza game, but I certainly think that this McTominay addition to the midfield is something that's going to give them another level and a different dimension that they certainly didn't have at a 2-man midfield.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, what the changes that Vos was alluding to was Conte went to a 4-3-3. And the reason why Conte feels comfortable enough to go to a 4-3-3 now is because of the player that Logs just mentioned, McTominay, who Conte had just nothing but glowing things to say about him in his post-game press conference. He was like, this is going to be a guy who's going to score a ton of goals. He's going to be in so many goal scoring opportunities. He was like, I love this player. This player can run for 90 minutes. He can play as a attacking midfielder. He can play as a defensive midfielder. And that is why Conte felt comfortable enough to go to a 4-3-3. And the reason why Vos wanted to bring that up is because Conte's been around now for years and years and years and years. He's been on Chelsea, he's been on Tottenham, he's been on Inter, he's been on Juventus. We've never, ever seen him run nothing besides a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-2-1. He's almost live and die by that. I will not change. I'm so hard-headed. This is my formation. This is the style of football that I want to play. And we're seeing now, he's like, hey, I'm going to kind of adjust, go to a 4-3-3, and when we're in possession, it will be kind of that 3-4-2-1 or just a 3-back or a 3-2-4-1 type thing, which is big from Conte because he never does that. And 2 games in a row now, it's been successful. 0-0 draw against Juventus. This is the first time he ran that. And then now a 2-0 win against Monza. So now that you have Conte, who's more willing to maybe switch formations, it just adds another kind of layered Napoli and makes them that much harder to beat because they can now do 2 different things.
Yeah, they are getting scary. And what may have allowed Conte to do this is how good Rachmani and Buongiorno have been. What I'm guessing is Conte was like, holy shit, these guys are really good. and they've looked at. They look like this is the best defense in the league. Buongiorno looks amazing every game, other than Juve, yeah. No, I mean like pure center backs. Like I get that Bremer and Gatti have been good. Buongiorno has been better than both of them, and I don't think it's close.
Bremer's been
I think
really good.
Bremer's been fucking phenomenal.
Bremer pocketed Lukaku.
Pocketed Lukaku.
Yeah, so Napoli pocketed everybody in Juve.
It's not hard. It's not hard to pocket Lukaku. Or not hard to do that. But no, they're a great defense. Buongiorno and Rachmani have been a great defense. I think that, in my opinion, Di Lorenzo has been kind of turning back the clock because we've seen him get absolutely fried in the Euros. Just couldn't hold Nico Williams' jockstrap, and we got the Serie A has some great players on the left wing. I know Nico Williams is also a very great player, but I would say that pound for pound we have some players of his caliber. And Di Lorenzo's holding his own. He's not getting burned. He struggled a little bit against Ndoin, but other than that, he's been very, very solid.
Definitely. He has been good. And Monza, we talked about a little bit in the relegation battle there. They got to figure their shit out. He's on the hot seat. We get it. So not much more to say there. The other matches that did happen this weekend, we talked about a little bit. Milan beat Lecce 3-0. Juve continuing to roll, beat Genoa 3-0.
I want to talk about this game really quick. Coop Miners is that dude. Like, he is a very good player. He's a general out there. He's commanding players to go to move into specific spaces, and he had that great assist to Dusan Vlahovic. But that's who I wanted to talk about. Dusan Vlahovic. I was watching this game with some of my friends who aren't the biggest soccer fans. I convinced them all to throw $200 on the game because I did it. So they were like, fuck it, we'll do it together. First half was an absolute snooze fest, terrible. And I was explaining to them that this man, Dusan Vlahovic, if he gets an opportunity within like the 6-yard line, it's not going to be a goal. But if he has an opportunity that you do not think is going to go in, he will score that goal. Dusan needs to brush up on the fundamentals. He's like a highlight, but he can't do the fundamental stuff, which you have to be able to do at this level. Dusan, and I don't know if people know this, is the highest paid player in the league. And he can't make like an 8-yard pass to his teammate. He can't do it.
That's bad. That's a bad stat. I did not know that.
He's the highest paid player in the league. But then he has that second goal against Genoa. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was 0% chance that ball could go in the net. And it went in the net. It was insane. And then he'll miss a sitter. So I loved what I saw from him in terms of that finish, but he needs to step his game up. And the stats are kind of misleading because it says he has 4 goals, but 2 of them are PKs. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about Juve. And
Milik does do the fundamentals well, I will say.
He does.
Bouncing on from there, 2 teams that I've really liked. I think as a whole, we've really liked them. Lazio went to Torino. They won that game 3-2. I'm going to continue to sit here and say, Baroni, keep doing what you're fucking doing. It's working. You guys look awesome. He's getting the best out of all these players that haven't necessarily been seen as like great players. You're talking about Dia a lot. That Castellanos-Dia partnership has been phenomenal. They counter well. They play well in possession. Nuno Tavares looks like a new player, like what Arsenal thought they were going to get in him. Guendouzi now scoring. I think Ravella's looked the best he's looked since leaving Juve. And I think he's going to have a chance with the national team at some point this year. That's how good I think he's been. In goal, Provedel's been phenomenal. Where they're going to be hamstrung is still how good is Romagnoli. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll kind of eat my words about Lazio here, especially Latito. Latito's kind of proven me wrong. I absolutely dogged him this summer. I think what Latito's proving is that he is really good at knowing players in the Serie A that kind of are on mid-table teams and can take that next step to go to a team that can qualify for the Champions League. He can never get them over the hump to like win a Scudetto. I think Lazio's their ceiling's always going to be like second place is going to be the highest that they can go. But Latito finds those players and they can excel in a Lazio system like Dia and like Nuno, another stat of the day, first player ever to be a new transfer and get 4 assists in 4 straight games. Nuno, stat of the day.
That's a good stat.
That is a good stat. Nuno had a decent season in Ligue 1 after he left Arsenal, so I'm glad to see that his trajectory here is certainly on the up and up.
Yeah, and on Torino, I still like what they're doing. It didn't quite go their way this game. Like, Lazio is a very good team. Torino's still a very good team. You put 2 goals against Lazio. This was a hard-fought game. You don't win all these. I don't think this is a head-down moment for Torino. I mean, I still like what they're doing. I love the project that's in place. Shea Adams fucking firing. Like, that's a big one. It's going to be Zapata, though. I don't know if he can. You guys did say it. He's a little bit older. Can he do this the whole season? I'm not sure. Maybe Shea Adams is going to get more starts. He's really only featured off the bench so far for the majority of the season. That's going to be an interesting one. But, Logs, I'm going to throw this one to you because Torino, Lazio, AC Milan right now, for me, are all on the same level.
Certainly. I mean, Torino's definitely played above their typical average, and I think that's great for them. I think that this level actually will continue. I think a lot of their players have been consistent. I have a little bit of a shout at the end of the sode for Samuel Ricci, but again, another name that has certainly shown up that we haven't heard before. Illich is a bit reborn. He played at Verona before. He's looking good. But that the front line is really important for them because they're always going to be stout defensively. I know I say that off the back of a 3-goal game, but at the same time, Lazio is firing on all cylinders and they look unstoppable at the moment. But between Sanabria, Shea Adams, and Zapata, that's going to really show if they can keep up with the pace because that's where the production is going to come from. So that's Torino. Lazio, again, like I just said, I mean, off to the races. They're having a hell of a season, certainly outplaying what we expected out of them. I think that they have a lot of the same players from last year, although, Castellanos is playing a bigger role. They brought in Isaacson, who I think is a phenomenal winger. Dia coming from Dia was at Torino last year, right? And he had a phenomenal season last year. Way to pick him up on our team. Guendouzi's firing on all cylinders. Ravella's playing well. We just talked about Nuno. So if they can keep playing at that form, I don't see a reason that they won't be in the conversation for European soccer. And then that brings us to AC. And again, we just have so many question marks. We're playing well right now. How long can Pulisic keep pulling us on his back? That guy is icing his back every single game. His backpack is bigger than Kevin Durant's right now. Leao hasn't shown what we need to show, I would say. I mean, maybe he's a silent leader, but no, we haven't seen that. So a lot of underperformance from AC, but that's why they're on the same level as these other two teams that do not have the same strength of a roster.
Good point. That's why I asked you. Good answer, dude. That's what you. That's why you're going to the lake. Como. This is a fucking great result. Beat little lad the great. Beat Verona 3-2. This is a result they needed. This is a Verona team that is not easy to beat, and this is a good win. You go into a gunfight with Verona and you win it at home. Big for Como. Ship moving in the right direction for Fabregas.
I think you're also forgetting their bigger win against a team with bigger guns last week. Same scoreline, 3-2. Como away.
Get hide on Calcio
Culture.
Away.
I'm fucking hiding.
Vos, when are you going to get on the Lake Como train?
I'm not.
Because Motts and I have been there. We're chilling. We're sitting by the lake smoking cigars with Chet. When are you going to get on this train? Because this team is a lot better than what you're giving them credit for.
I don't like them. I don't like what they're doing.
Watch a game. Sit down and watch the Como game. You'll like them. They play pretty football.
All right, fuck those guys. Really bad game. Fiorentina went to Empoli. What do you think the result was? 0-0. Empoli just continuing to grind it out. I love what they're doing. I have no problem with it. If you do it well, continue to do it, you're top 6 in the league.
Here's my question for you two, and you guys can answer quickly on this one. How long do you think Empoli can keep this up? Where do you think they can finish? Like, what do you think their ceiling is, or where do you think their best finish possible could be? Because they played Roma, they played Juve, no goals.
8. You need to win games to be in the conversation for European football. They're not winning games. I'm not saying that they're bad. I mean,
yeah, but how many games did Juve win when they came in like second?
Yeah, but Juve were winning games in the first half of the season.
I don't see Empoli winning too many games. They can grind these out, but I don't think they're going to win too many games. And so I think the highest that they can really get with all these draws is 8. I think that they end in the 11 to 10 range, which is still a respectable season out of them.
I had them getting relegated. I did not see this coming. Vos, what do you think?
Vos is pondering right now. Look at this guy. He's pondering his orb about this.
I think I agree with you, Logs.
That's interesting. You don't usually do that.
They're going to have a hard time staying top 6.
I think that's not.
I just don't think
that's
like
not a
even
racist statement.
the hottest. I don't think. I don't think they're going to lose games to the big teams. I'm more worried about them not winning against the not so good teams. Like I literally think like when they play Roma 6 months from now, they're going to get a result. I think if they play Juve right now, they're going to get a result. Like I feel good about them every week right now. I just don't know if they're going to be able to go and, oh, we're going to Venezia, let's win. Like we're going to Cagliari, let's win. And I don't know if they can keep that up. So I think
It's just-
7, 8, 9 is fair.
That's a fair point.
It's just a matter of 1 point just doesn't get you to the top of the table. That's it. You can get a result, but one's not going to get you to the top.
Yeah, Mats, how do you feel about Fiorentina? Other side of things.
Fiorentina just, they cannot score. They can't. It's so weird with Fiorentina because either they can score, but they let in more goals than they score, or they shut the team out and then they can't score. So they are struggling right now. Once again, new coach, growing pains. We say that a lot with a bunch of these teams in the Serie A, but that is because a lot of new coaches came into play. Fiorentina also, though, are now going to start having 3 games a week because the Conference League is starting, so it's only going to get harder for them. I love that Gudmundson came back. Hopefully the ruling is good so he can stay. If Gudmundson is on the team and can play it game in and game out with Keane's form, Kopani to figure out, I think that Fiorentina can figure it out. And what I will say, and we said it before, a lot of, maybe, I don't know about luck, but very fortunate for a lot of these teams that haven't had the greatest start, that you're really only 2 points, 3 points behind a top 5 spot. Because a 2-game win streak with the game skid of the top teams, you're right where you want to be. So
I also think this roster is way better than how they're performing. I'm gonna rattle off a bunch of names.
No, that's definitely true.
And anybody who watches even a little bit of Serie A over the past couple of years is going to recognize these guys. We talked about it a lot. Moise Keane, Gudmundson had a great season last year. He's just starting to get into form. Kopani was supposed to be a big signing. He hasn't come to form yet. Kouame is actually phenomenal. He's just Jonathan Akone, but they also have Jonathan Akone. Daniel Cataldi, Bove from Roma, phenomenal player. Robin Gosens might be that. He's the ghost of past. Yassine Adli, our fucking dog. He's out there having barbecues with the fucking team. This Fiorentina team has the guys to win games, not just get results, but win games. And I think they can fight for that last European spot, but they need to perform.
Paladino, big shoes to fill in Italiano. But the last game happened today. I know Mats has a take on this, and I'm going to fucking rail him for it. Cagliari went to Parma, won the game 3-2. Mats, say your bullshit.
I'm officially out on Parma. They're an exciting team that scores goals, which is great, but they are unorganized. They let in so many goals. And the coach, the manager, I'm forgetting on his name, but I know that he prefers younger, less experienced players because he can get them to buy into his system. But let me tell you what that leads to. That leads to a lot of mistakes. That leads to a lot of fouls. That leads to a lot of goals. That leads to a lot of red cards for Parma. Parma has played 6 games, and they have 3 red cards. Half of their games are getting a guy sent off the field. One of them, it was their goalie that got a red card. You got to stop with the red cards. They're electric, but they're not organized. They're going to lose a lot of games late because of it, and they're very inexperienced, and because of it, they're going to lose games. But they're fun to watch.
I mean, perfect example of that, Mats, was exactly today. They tie the game up in the 87th minute off a penalty, and in the same fucking minute, they let up the game winner.
Yeah, that can't
be happening.
Yeah, that is the thing they need to figure out. It's how do we control a game? Like it's
I think
2-2.
cards
Like,
is what that's
yeah.
Well, option number 1, finish the game with 11 men.
Like this
That's
is
really
a really good example of what the coach needs to instill on the players. Like we've seen this a couple times now. They had the lead against Napoli, red card, lose the game, blah blah blah. Like we can go through this over and over. 87th minute, 2-2 against Cagliari. Cagliari don't score goals. Don't try to win this game. You're at Cagliari. It's late in the game. Be happy you leveled it. Let's just see it out. And they're not there yet. And I think they're going to have the lead in a lot of games they play this year.
So they've had the lead in a lot of games.
Yeah, and I think that's going to continue. Like they're going to have the lead against good teams. They'll have they have had it. Napoli. They might have a lead against Juve. Like all these good teams. And the more they're in that situation, then you learn to adapt to it. We have the lead. What's happened in the past? We need to fix that going forward. I don't think they're going to break into a European spot this year. They're not going to go down this year. But this is a team that they're going to finish mid-table and they can grow on that and get even better.
I'm out on them. I think if you get up 2-0, if Parma get up 2-0 on you, you can easily still win that game.
Yeah, that's
Easily.
the issue. I fully agree with that right now, but they're not fake news. I'm not having that.
They're fun to watch.
That wraps up this weekend, but this week we have a fuckload of games. We got Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, breaking you through what's happening. Champions League, Milan's going to Leverkusen. Lugs, how do you feel about that one? What's the result here?
I think Xabi Alonso's gonna put on a masterclass. I don't see. Well, we'll see. Pulisic is playing out of his mind, and I think that brings up a lot of the rest of the offense. And so, if we can find a way to shut down
Florian.
Leverkusen, which is impossible because Florian Wirtz is off to the races in the Champions League. Jeremy Frimpong is nasty, and the rest of that team is, again, I talked about this earlier in the episode, carbon copy of last season. So they have the consistency to just absolutely shut out AC. That back three is stupid good. Hinkapie, Jonathan Tah, and our boy, who I can't remember his name right now, and Tapsoba. Oh my God, I forget Tapsoba. Stupid good.
We've seen Leverkusen struggle against the Serie A team in the past in the European football. One thing I'll say is Milan had a great win against Lecce, and you saw Fonseca taking your guys out, get them subs, get them rest early because you know you got a midweek game. Pulisic is firing on all cylinders. Last season tended to kind of fade away in the big games. Doesn't seem like it's happening this game. Scored against Inter. I want to see what he does in this game because it's another big game.
I think Milan get a result in this one. I said it last year about Leverkusen. This is kind of like a quick Bundesliga check-in. Leverkusen was not as good as everybody thinks because a lot of their results came off of 90-plus minute goals. In that, you can't replicate. We saw this with Liverpool a couple years ago. When that's how you're winning games, you can't replicate that the next year. That means you're not getting it done. And I think Milan are getting them at the right time kind of thing. And I'm not sold on the Leverkusen project fully still. I think Xabi Alonso's a great coach. I think they have a lot of good players. But I think this is a good matchup for Milan. Still back against the wall. Not really like we don't know what we're going to get from them, but I think this is a good situation for them to go in. You know, not at home too, which kind of helps.
I also think that both managers don't have too much experience in terms of managing Champions League games. That's also good.
I agree. No, I don't think that the experience on Xabi Alonso's side has anything to do with this. I think our best chance at this, we stick Fofana on Florian Wirtz and just have him mirror him the entire game. I don't think that's the worst idea. They play almost their entire offense through him, getting the ball to him, to the wings, getting it back in. If Fofana shuts off Wirtz, that's going to put them in a debacle. So I'll be interested. I'm excited for the game tomorrow. I'll certainly be watching it on my phone because my boss doesn't let me watch any games at work. But I'll be very hopeful for a result.
Other Milan team, Inter is hosting Cervera. I think they're from the Czech Republic, if I'm correct. I might be forgetting that. This is a good one for Inter to just get on the board in the Champions League, I would say. I expect a good result.
They're on the board.
They're better.
In the win column.
Win column.
Inter played a fantastic game against City. This is going to be a
blowout.
blowout.
Yeah, they should win this one. This is a back to business as usual one. Bologna is going to Liverpool. I feel really bad about this game for Bologna. I think they're going to get pulled apart by Liverpool.
Hopefully Chiesa plays in that one.
This is probably... Is this the match of the week for Champions League? Juve at Leipzig. It's this or Leverkusen. I think Leipzig's better than Leverkusen. So this is my game of the week.
Bayern Villa might be a good game too. PSG Arsenal.
Wait, we didn't put Bayern Villa on the schedule. Are you kidding me?
First of all,
it's only Serie A teams.
It's only Serie A. But the game of the week for overall would be PSG Arsenal. But for Serie A, probably Milan Leverkusen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the Juve Leipzig would be a great
already
game.
beat Leverkusen this year.
They did.
I still think it's Milan Leverkusen. That's my opinion. You can have a different opinion.
How do you
It's okay. It's okay to disagree.
How do you feel?
I'm excited for this one. I think that it's a different team. Juve haven't gone up against a squad like Leipzig yet this season. We did see Juve have great success against PSV. However, that was a home game. I want to see how Juve do away from home. It kind of sucks because Juve switched off for 1 minute of the PSV game and they let up a goal. If it not had been for that 1 minute, Juve would be 7 games in, letting no goals up. I think Leipzig are a high attacking team that like to score goals, obviously being in the Bundesliga. So it'll be interesting to see how Juve's defense stacks up because they don't concede shots, let alone goals. Leipzig are going to be on the front foot. One thing I will say, and then I'll shut up. Thiago Motta's teams typically do better when you try to go attack them. And then you become open, and then they can counter you. So I think that will play into Juve's hand, and they'll be able to win this game. Where Motta's team kind of struggles if you sit back in your shell. It's hard for him to. They kind of just pass it around the back, and they're happy with possession. If you go forward and you overcommit, they're going to counter and kill you. So I think we're going to win this one.
I'm definitely interested in this game just from the perspective of I want to see Motta go up against the Red Bull system because I think that
I 100% agree with that. This is going to be a weird matchup for this team.
it's good. I think it's going to be the first time that this defense is truly tested. I mean, all season. They're going to be fearless. I think Red Bull's going to get a ton of shots. I think Di Gregorio is going to actually have to participate in this game. So I think UA does pull out the win, but I do think it'll be a very interesting game.
I'm interested in seeing how they handle the press more than anything because Leipzig presses unlike any team you're going to probably play ever, where it's just like constant. They just try to make the game chaos, and that's the opposite of what Motta's trying to play into. And a lot of teams really struggle to deal with it. So this is a good test for them. PSV was a good test, but this is another one. So I hope they cope with it. I love this Juve team. I love this Juve roster. I love a million other players. I love the club. So I hope they get one here. It'd be sick if they could go to
Sounds like
Leipzig.
he's a Juve fan. Maybe we say this on air. Vos is no longer a Milan fan.
So
He likes Roma more than them. He likes Atalanta. He likes Juve more than
I
them.
like everybody.
I
I like everybody. I don't know.
He likes Roma, but he hates Como. Don't even talk to him about Como.
Yeah.
But no, he's not.
Moving on to my favorite team in the league. Apparently, Atalanta going to Shakhtar. They're gonna win here.
I hope so.
They got that fucking
Yeah, you would think so.
Grinta.
Europa League.
Gonna get it done. Europa League, Nice going to Lazio. I don't know shit about Nice. I would like Lazio to get a win here at home. Baroni, I think it's Baroni's first time ever coaching in European competition.
The Europa League started last week, and Lazio won their first game. I mean, I think Lazio go in and get this done. It's in Lazio. It's in Rome.
Yep, in Rome. They should get this done, from what I know.
Correct.
Roma's going to this guy Elfsborg. No, I don't know anything about Elfsborg. For Roma, a little bit interesting. Another game for Juric. Another competition he's never managed in before. Besides, I mean, they tied Bilbao, which I would say is a great result. That's a very good team.
I don't love that result because they were at home. I think you got to kind of get that win. But it's new coach. I think this game is not a must win because you're away and it's only 2 games in. But I would like to see Roma get off.
Yeah, I would like to see the win here.
Don't sleep on Elfsborg. That's all I'll say. Going to these small Eastern European teams, those stadiums can get wild, and that might be a factor. I don't even know where Elfsborg is. To be honest,
I think it's in Switzerland.
All right, well, they're probably in the eastern part of Switzerland, but all I'm saying is that these small town teams, they can get rowdy, and that's a different experience than what you're usually going to get.
All right,
Small
well,
stadium.
Going to the Conference League, you're going to love this one. The new Saints are going to Florence to Fiorentina. I've literally never heard of these guys before. For me, Fiorentina takes whatever European competition they're in very seriously. So for Palladino, it is important that you don't fuck this up. Like, you're at home against some randos. A draw is not enough here. You need to win this game. Like, this is a Conference League game. This is meaningful for this club. It's meaningful for the owners. It's meaningful for the fans. And Italiano set the precedent that you need to try to win this trophy. So you have to win this game, especially with how the season has started for them.
100%. Where do you think the new Saints are from?
Oh, I looked it up, so I know.
Motts?
I'm not even going to guess.
They're 5th in the Welsh League.
Welsh, there it is. I think that this competition could be the measuring stick for Palladino because Italiano went so far every year, and it's like, hey, if you're struggling in the Serie A, at least you're doing the same thing that we're
Yeah.
doing in the Conference League. If you're doing terrible in both, it's like, why are you here? And the fans might revolt and call for his head. So these games are going to start, including the Serie A, they're going to start having a lot more pressure on Palladino.
Yeah,
Huge week.
before we wrap up here, this is a long episode, but Palladino's safe right now, right? That's general consensus. Still safe or no?
I would say so.
I just said I'm going to be listen to what I said earlier in the show. Zoom out. It's only 6 episodes in. I will never call for a manager's head 5 games in again. Zoom out. Give him time. Let him implement his system, his philosophy. Teach the boys. Sensei them.
Fiorentina have the same record as Italiano right now. Just putting that out there.
And once again, the table is so close. It's a game can flip your season. Roma and Milan were in 14th and 16th, and now they're in 3rd and 9th. Like, one win, 3 points can turn your season around, can shoot you up the table. We're so early on in the season.
Yeah, but
Unless it's like egregiously bad.
We went a little long today. We had a lot to talk about, a lot that we missed. We apologize. We'll try not to do that again. Logan, why are you interrupting my outro?
Because I need to say something before you do the outro. Really quick, end of the episode show, even though we're going way over today. It's never too early to talk about transfer news, and the reason I bring it up, Rodri out for the season. Manchester City's short list. 2 midfielders from Serie A, Ederson of Atalanta and Samuel Ricci of Torino. Who's the
3.
third?
I saw a 3rd one today. Nicola Barella.
I did see Barella, but
And
I
then-
think that's a pipe
Ederson
dream.
and Barella don't make any sense.
Ricci makes sense. to me.
Ricci makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That I agree with.
Ricci makes sense.
Well, I think because they're like right now, Kovacic is playing the Roger,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
they just
That's
be like,
true.
we'll just get Barella and play him in the Barella role and have Kovacic fuck. I've also seen, just because we're talking about it, I saw De Jong as well, Frankie from Barca. De Jong, my bad, De Jong.
and Zubamendi, which I think is a cool show.
They're
But
just
in
gonna
any
buy
case,
whoever they want.
Yeah.
Serie A quality going to Man City. That's where
Potentially.
you go with, potentially, but I mean,
Hopefully
even have
not.
the short
Hopefully
list,
not. Hopefully not.
even have the short list that just shows you where the league's going.
And with that, my outro is fucked up. Lokes, where do people follow us?
Oh, you can follow us everywhere. We're on Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube at Calcio Culture FC. And just where you're listening now, we're on all your streaming websites, Spotify and Apple Pods. Fuck your outro. Motts, take us away.
Paisanos, we do want to apologize. You missed a week. It won't happen again. We missed the YouTube live. It won't happen again. We will have a YouTube live soon as well. We'll get back to the cold beat. We'll get back to posting on TikTok. We kind of took a little bit of a vacation. We apologize. It won't happen again. We love you. Don't be a gagoots, and Forza Calcio Culture.